All right, let's talk. Eric Arnold back here in my politics barn. Wee hours of Tuesday, the 10th of, 10-1, the 10th of nothing. October 1st, 2024. What are we talking about tonight? We're going to talk a little bit about Pete Rose. And I know you political people are saying, what's that have to do with anything? You can just skip forward. Pete Rose is important to me and a lot of sports fans here in eastern Pennsylvania. So I think we need to eulogize the man. And then we'll talk a little bit about the status of this endless presidential race and whether or not we're going to, I guess we're almost to the point now where does Groundhog see a shadow or not? Are we going to get 6 more weeks of winter or will we get an early spring? And that's my euphemism for Donald Trump will win and we will have an early spring. And the trumpets will blow and the angels will sing and everything will be okay. But Pete Rose died tonight. He meant something to me. He did. I've been a lifelong baseball fan. Grew up in the 70s with the Phillies, Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, and Greg Wyszynski. And then they brought in Pete Rose, who was our rival. We did not like Pete Rose. But the hell of it was, we did like Pete Rose. Even though we played this guy in 76 and he swept us in 3 games. And I don't imagine he was particularly, well, you know what? He was always complimentary of the Phillies. You know, he would beat us and we'd kind of go, I don't like that guy. He's a show-off. He's a hot dog. That's what they called guys like that back in the day when they were on the other team. When they were on your team, you loved them. So 78, he had the hitting streak. A lot of people forget that. I don't. That was something that you don't see anymore. A hitting streak. It's very exciting. Every day you look forward to that game where that player is going to play. Sadly, I think pretty much anyone that remembers DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak in 1941, they're probably dead now. You know, I don't know there's anyone alive that could say, yeah, I remember the summer of 41 when DiMaggio was on that streak. It's just a record that'll never be broken. And it's a shame because it's so exciting. So yes, in the summer of 78, Rose was on a hitting streak. 44 games he got up to, tied the National League record, and then was shut down by the evil Gene Garber in Atlanta, who acted like they just won the World Series when he struck out Pete Rose to end the streak. But you rooted for the guy, even though he wasn't on your team, and you were supposed to not like him because, you know, he was a showboat and a hot dog. You had to root for the guy. You just did. He was always a man of the people. The fans gravitated towards Pete Rose. Then he came over to my team that had never won anything, literally had never won a World Series up to that point. And he didn't win it all by himself, but he was certainly a piece, an important piece in that 1980 run to the title. We were down in the championship series 2-1, and the game is tied in the extra innings, and there's 2 outs, and he's on first, and Greg Wyszynski slams a ball against the wall, and there's no way he could score because, well, A, the ball was hit really, really hard, and it caromed right to the outfielder, and B, Pete Rose really wasn't that fast, but he was going. He's like, I'm going. I'm scoring that run. I don't care. I care what I have to do. And the ball beat him to the plate, but it was a short hop, and the catcher with Pete Rose thundering down on him, couldn't hold it. The catcher was Bruce Bochy, by the way. Bruce Bochy has 4 World Series rings as a manager now, but he was the guy that got run over in Game 4 of the Phillies-Astros series to tie the series. That was a go-ahead run that Rose scored. And then in Game 5, Rose worked out a bases-loaded walk against Hall of Famer Nolan Ryan to keep a rally going late in the game, which the Phillies then ultimately went on to win and went on to win the World Series. So Rose was a big part of that team, even though you look at the stats nowadays and you go, wow, really, he was okay, that seemed, but it didn't seem like he did that much. He was 39 for one thing, so you're not expecting the guy to hit 360. He's 39. He did a hell of a lot to win the Phillies their first World Championship. He was exciting. He was an exciting player. Now, as far as his scandals and whatnot, and Disney, you can go to hell. Go to hell, ESPN. They couldn't help themselves. The guy's body's not even cold yet, and their headline was "Embattled MLB legend Pete Rose dies." Couldn't you just say MLB legend? Couldn't you just say that? You got to throw in a word like embattled or controversial or some other horse shit. These people, and I don't know what the hell Pete Rose did that was so goddamn bad. I've been thinking about that for the last hour or so. I've been thinking about what I'm going to say out here. And what did he do? He bet on baseball. We didn't know he was betting on baseball. It wasn't like, wow, that was weird. I think the Reds just threw the game. That was totally odd what just happened. No one knew it because he hid it. He lied about it too, but we didn't know it was happening. It didn't take away from our enjoyment of the game, but baseball, of course, seems, because they had this horrible incident happen 100 years ago, long before Pete Rose was even born, where they allowed a team to throw a World Series, the Chicago White Sox in 1919. Forevermore now, that is like the sacrosanct rule that you cannot break, and Rose broke it. So he's been punished severely ever since. And I believe it's been a joke, basically, that this ongoing ridiculous punishment that's being meted out by such mediocre people like Bud Selig and Rob Manfred, people that have done much worse to the game of baseball than Pete Rose ever did. Pete Rose was a good thing for baseball. He was exciting. You had the hit streak. You had his chase to become the all-time hit leader. That was exciting. Is he going to make it? Will he get there? Or will he get injured and simply be too old and not get there and not break Ty Cobb's record? That was exciting. Just watching the guy play. He always played like he had his hair on fire. I think he said one time he would walk through hell in a gasoline suit just to play baseball. The guy loved to play baseball. But then he's being judged by mediocrities like Selig, who famously presided over the game in 1994, where the World Series was canceled because he couldn't make a deal with the players' union, so they canceled an entire season, or at least the part of the season that mattered, the postseason. And then he's presided over the steroid era, which I would argue that did more to hurt the game of baseball than certainly anything Rose ever did, but maybe more than anything in history. What used to be the most exciting thing that you would have going for you in baseball? The records, the records. How many hits can you get in a season? How many home runs can you hit in a season? That used to be so exciting to see. 60, 61, these are numbers that people that don't even follow baseball know, because, or at least the older people know these numbers, and now they're meaningless because they allowed guys obviously cheating the game to just make a mockery of it by taking all sorts of illegal substances, bulking up, allowing them to do ridiculous feats on the baseball field. And the punishment for those guys that cheated, it really isn't much, I would argue, no punishment at all. I'm going to have to suffer in the next few weeks with Alex Rodriguez as a broadcaster on the current MLB product, the 2024 playoffs. I'm going to have to suffer with this guy as a broadcaster. This is a guy that became a billionaire by cheating his entire career. He cheated his whole career. What punishment has this guy suffered? Oh, well, he's not in the Hall of Fame. Oh, okay, not in the Hall of Fame. He's a billionaire because of the cheating that he did. He suffers no stigma at all. He's lauded as a Emmy-winning broadcaster. So people are, the networks kiss his ass. Oh, you're so good, A-Rod. We love you. This is a guy who should be thrown out of polite society, sort of like they did with Pete Rose. But no, you know, A-Rod we bow down to, and Pete Rose, we throw him in the ditch. It's disgusting. And then you have the current jerk-off, Manfred. He canceled, or basically made useless, a season in 2020 because, again, he could not make a deal with the players' union because he's such a piece of shit. And he was the one that most recently, I believe, said no to Rose's reinstatement effort because Rose still likes to bet. Rose is like 70-some years old now. He's nowhere near baseball. He's nowhere near anything. And he likes to place a bet here and there. Oh, and that's your justification for keeping him out of the Hall of Fame? You suck, Manfred. You really suck. I hope you just feel that much bad today, because now you'll never have a chance to right the wrong of Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame. And somebody will put him in eventually. I hope it's not Rob Manfred, just because it'd be embarrassing for everybody. Somebody else will say, all right, let's finally correct this, and we'll put him where he belongs, in the Hall of Fame. A quick Rose story before I move on to the politics. Rose, he's a man of the people. He goes to a thing they call Red Fests. I guess every team probably has this, except, you know, instead of the word Reds, they insert Phillies or Blue Jay Fest, which is an off-season confab where ex-players show up and the current team brings in fans or season ticket holders or whatever, and they basically try to hype up the team and the current edition and the upcoming season, get you excited for that. And the old players will sign autographs and tell stories and what have you. So a friend of mine, friend of the program, he goes to this. Well, I can tell you exactly the date. I can tell you the date. It was 2015 he goes to this. And he's got his, well, actually, now that I think about it, he's got his son with him, Frank, not his real name, but he's been mentioned in previous programs, Frank. And I'm doing the math. It's like, Frank's probably about 16 here. So Frank's actually, you know, probably old enough to, but he's an awkward child. He's an awkward child. So my buddy, his wife, spots Pete Rose there in the bar. And he's watching the Ohio State-Michigan State game. And she, of course, goes, my buddy's like, I don't want to go talk. What am I going to say? Hey, Pete Rose, how's it going? You know, how do you start up a conversation with Pete Rose? Well, wives don't have that issue. They just like, hey, famous person, my husband loves you. He just loves you. And if you're not doing anything, he would love to, you know, take 16 selfies with you and talk to you. And, you know, you're like, oh my God, no. So she does that. And here Pete Rose, he's by himself. He's like, sure, come on down. And he sits and talks to them for like half an hour. It just, you know, being personable and talking to them. Now, apparently that he said hello to the kid, Frank, and it's like, hey, buddy, how are you? And Frank, being the awkward child that he was, kind of went, I don't know. And his mother then said, Frank, when Pete Rose talks to you, you answer. So Frank he knows that now. When Pete Rose talks to you, you answer. But I love that story because, you know, when you hear stories about your heroes out in the real world, you don't want to hear that they stiffed some kid for an autograph or were too busy to sign something. Subscriber X is scarred to this day because George Foster big-timed him at an autograph show. He's been a broken man ever since, and he's never going to get over it, never. So, but Pete Rose came through with flying colors. What a great guy. So for the wrap up, we like Pete Rose. We liked him in Ohio. We liked him in Pennsylvania. We think Pete Rose got a raw deal. We enjoyed him. We enjoyed watching him play. And we're sorry he's gone. That should have been made right. He should have had his day in the sun. One last day in the sun, inducted into the Hall of Fame for a game that the guy loves so much. But that's life. Life isn't fair. And I'm sure Rose knew that better than anybody. Yes, he had flaws, but he was punished severely for the mistakes he made. He's dead. He's even with the house. I say, Pete Rose, rest in peace. All right, where are you at in this Trump race? Well, I'm telling you, last episode I said I thought the weather vane had started blowing in the Trump direction, and I'm pretty comfortable right now that it's a veritable gale blowing in the Trump direction. The only thing that I'm a little puzzled by is the betting odds still are basically 50-50. Trump is just that much behind in the betting odds, but I'm not seeing it that way. I'm seeing that Trump has a very good chance of winning this election, way higher than 50-50. I think that Silver had now put Harris ahead in his percentages, where she was up like 60-40 or something like that. Don't see it. I don't see it. I think that guy's wrong again. Why am I feeling so good? Well, in this past week, I mean, there's basically been just nonstop good polls out for Trump. I'd throw away ones that to me are obvious crap, like where I see Reuters or NBC has Harris leading the national poll by like 5 or 6 points. It's like, that's just garbage. That is just total crap. I don't believe it. I'm certain that's not accurate. Those kind of polls are historically wrong almost every time. They're always too far skewed to the Democrats. they're not even, you can confidently say they're not even polls. They're simply propaganda. They simply put those things out. They're intentionally skewed to give the Democrats a bigger advantage than they would otherwise have if they had any advantage at all, just to depress the Republicans. What does it mean, depress? I mean, what, you're going to vote? No, not everybody does vote. People like to vote for a winner. And if they think, well, I was thinking about voting for Trump, but it's not going to matter. He's going to lose anyway. I'll just stay home and play Xbox. Or maybe you were going to write a check to the campaign, but you don't want to waste your money on a loser. So, that is why they try to depress the enthusiasm of Republicans. They've been doing this, well, I don't know, for at least 20, 30 years. So it's a time-tested tactic. But there are certain polls that I'll look at, and I pretty much will go back into the 20 and 16 cycles, and I'll say, okay, how did this pollster do? Were they close? Now, not every last media and academic poll is all trash. Every now and then I'll come across one and I'll say, wow, that one was actually pretty close. One here in Pennsylvania that was pretty close in 2020 is called the Allentown Morning Call. That's the newspaper. And they used the local college, Muhlenberg College. That one was pretty close. They've got that, I think that, I'm going by memory here, I think they've got the race within a point or two here in PA. So, he's not, I just think I saw a couple ridiculous left-wing polls, like from Bloomberg, that would have him down 5-6 points here in Pennsylvania. That's just ridiculous. That's just utterly ridiculous, and it's not true. One that came out, a whole series of them, was a pollster that I'd not heard of before. They don't put out many polls, called Atlas Intel. It's like, what is Atlas Intel? So I looked, and they've got him up in Michigan, up in Pennsylvania. I think Wisconsin's about 50-50. They got him slightly up in Georgia, and then strangely enough, they had him down in North Carolina, and I think down in Arizona. So it was like, well, all right, mixed bag. But up here in PA, that's kind of what I'm feeling. The New York Times Siena poll that we pointed out here last week that had him up in the Sun Belt. Emerson, they've got all these battleground states. They're within like 1 or 2 points. So I'm feeling, it's like, okay. And then Trafalgar, that's one Nate Silver hates. They were dead on in 20. It's a Republican poll. When all these leftist media outlets were saying Biden was going to win by 7, 8, 9 points, Trafalgar said, hey, it's going to be really close. And they were right. Now, they were not as right in the midterm cycle in 22. So that's where Silver gets off saying, they suck, they're not worth anything. And he's wrong, as usual. But they had Trump doing well in the battleground states. Now, the one that I think is the one I like the best, the absolute best, and I haven't heard about this one talked about too much, largely, I guess, because people that would talk about it are all Harris supporters, so why would they talk about it? Gallup, do you know who they are? They're like the original pollster. They date back into just probably before World War II. At some point in the last 30 years, prior to every presidential race, they do a poll where they ask, how do you identify? What's a party that you're most affiliated with? Now, I'm not sure how they exactly word that. It's worded slightly different than, what party do you belong to? In other words, my father was a Democrat. The only reason he was a Democrat because he lived in a heavily, heavily Democrat city. And he could not vote for anything that meant anything unless he was a Democrat. In other words, all the action happens in the primary. That's where you can actually have a race where somebody it might be close. Whoever wins the Democrat primary in a city like that is going to win the election. The Republican has no chance because they're 8-2 for the Democrats. So the Democrat will always win the general election. So there's no point in being a Republican because you'll always lose and you'll have no say whatsoever in who wins. So that's why he's a Democrat. He's not a Democrat in any sense of the word, in that he's always voting for Donald Trump. He's never voting for communism. He identifies with the Republican Party. So that's why the wording is different there. Who do you identify with? The Democrats or the Republicans? And this question has been remarkably accurate in predicting who wins the popular vote in the presidential elections and by how much. Let's take a look at this here. And not to bury the lead, the 2024 question has Trump up 48-45. So in the 2020 cycle, 48% identified as Democrats, 43 Republican. Well, the margin of the popular vote was 4.5. That Biden was got 4.5% more votes popular nationally than Trump did. So that would be, I wrote that wrong. It's like, that's not right. Let's erase that. 4.5. 4.5. There we go. Didn't double check my work. Anyway, back to where we're at here. So they predicted a 5-point Biden win. He won by 4.5. That's a half a point off. That's pretty accurate. What about when Trump won in 2016? Well, the Democrats 46, GOP 43. That's a margin, or a margin of 3. Hillary Clinton only won the popular vote by 2. She only won by 2. She lost the election because of the Electoral College, but she did win the popular vote, in case you forgot that. That's a difference of 1. That's pretty close. In 12, it was 47-43, Democrat to GOP, and Obama won the election by 4 points. The popular vote, he won by 4 points. That's right on. That is right on. 2008, 49-41, an 8-point spread. Obama over McCain. McCain was never a real threat there. Not a good politician. Well, let's just leave it at that. So Obama was going to win easily. He won by 7. An 8-point spread. He won by 7. That's a 1-point difference. Look at this. This is incredibly accurate. And then down here, as it gets older here, there's a few wider variances, 2000 being the widest one, where 48% identified as Democrats, 43% identified as Republicans. Al Gore won the popular vote by only half a point, and ultimately lost the election. And that was the biggest variance, 4.5 there. 2000 would probably be the one you would point at and say, well, it really didn't work there. It really didn't work there because, according to that, Al Gore should have won. He should have won the election, and he didn't. But in all these others, not only did it work, it was incredibly accurate. Now, what does that mean? Donald Trump lost the popular vote in 2016 by 2 points and was able to eke out a win in the Electoral College. He lost the popular vote by 4.5 in 2020 and lost in the Electoral College. And frankly, it wasn't quite as close as maybe we wanted it to be. He lost a number of states close, but you know, even if he had won one of them, he still would have lost. He has never won the popular vote. And if this would hold up where Donald Trump would win the popular vote by 3 points, it'd be a veritable landslide. It would be easily a win like 2004 where Bush beat Kerry. Probably you're looking at something more akin to Bush versus Dukakis, where Trump would carry probably all the battleground states. He may even carry some like Virginia and run close in some others like Minnesota, Colorado, New Hampshire, what have you. But he would win easily in the Electoral College if this holds up. And it's like, well, why wouldn't it hold up? This looks pretty accurate. In other words, they have done a very good job of predicting this sort of thing in the past, that this question seems to predict who is going to win the popular vote. So I'm kind of, you know, I feel good about this. I do feel good about this. This certainly holds here in Pennsylvania, where the registrations here in Pennsylvania since the 2020 election, more people have switched from Democrat to Republican than vice versa, and more new voters have registered as Republican than they have as Democrats. So, and that is really encouraging in that your new voters often are young. You know, you get the occasional guy who's 50 years old that just never voted and for whatever reason has decided he now wants to participate. But Pennsylvania is starting to get a little redder. And I kind of, in that Western PA, that's probably where it's happening. Ohio is getting redder. West Virginia is about as red as it gets. The Democrats have done a really good job of antagonizing and making enemies out of anybody that digs stuff out of the ground, whether it be coal or natural gas. They've demonized these industries and just laughed in our face. Well, you need to learn to code. So what are you talking about? I don't even know what that means. I'm a coal miner. I'm a coal miner. That's what I do. And now you've closed every last coal mine. Here I heard somebody wants to hire me to drive sand around, which I guess they use for some other damn thing that they pump into the ground for something to get fracking, they call it. And now you won't even let me do that. So it's like they have totally, and these people were all Democrats. They were all Democrats. The United Mine Workers, you ever heard of them? Well, there is no such thing anymore because the Democrats have decimated those industries and the unions were unable to stop them. So it's like, why do I pay this union? They didn't do anything for me. They didn't help me. I'm unemployed thanks to the people they're kicking money to with political contributions. It's like my team is sleeping with the enemy. So all these people are now Republicans. Ohio is getting red, red, red. West Virginia can't get any redder. And a lot of this is bleeding into Western Pennsylvania. And I'm hoping that will make the difference. I still think that the Democrats, at least for the purposes of this state, Pennsylvania, they screwed up a couple of ways. Kicking Biden off the ballot, you know, despite the fact the guy can't string 3 sentences together, he drew more votes here in PA than Harris will. He can legitimately say, I was born in Scranton. Now, You know, he has Scranton values like I'm an astronaut. But he could actually say that. And for one of the things that Joe Biden says, that's actually true. He is from Scranton. He's old. Pennsylvania has a lot of old people. Old people vote. That's what they like to do, among other things. They like to vote. Old people root for old people. So he was going to get a lot of the senior citizen vote. Harris is not. She just will not get a lot of the senior vote. So, and then she had the chance to get Shapiro on the ticket, which I think would have won her the state of Pennsylvania. And that's still another reason why I'm thinking, you know, Shapiro's not on the ballot for a reason, and it's not because Harris didn't want him. He thinks that this is going to be a Harris disaster, and he doesn't want any part of it. I saw him, he's down there raising money for the governor's race in North Carolina. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you doing, man? You know, why are you not out here in Pennsylvania beating the bushes left, right, up, down for Kamala Harris? Why are you down in North Carolina? That makes no sense whatsoever. Oh, and he's not down there for the hurricane either. He's down there to fundraise and to campaign for, I think the guy's name is Stein, the North Carolina gubernatorial candidate for the Democrats. What are you doing down there? Why are you not up here in your own state trying to help Harris and Walz? He don't want any part of them. He doesn't want their stink to rub off on him. So, yeah, this is all feeling right now like Trump's going to win. That's what I'm feeling at the moment. Now, what does that mean? That means look the hell out. That's what that means. They've already tried to kill him twice, and they failed, and now he's looking like he's going to win. I'm telling you, it's like I think at some point, would they just give up and just say, oh, all right, let's just let this play out, and he's probably going to win, and we'll cheat like we always do, but, you know, if he pulls a popular vote victory like this, they can't out-cheat that. That's too many votes. For those you are just so pessimistic, well, they'll just cheat. They always cheat, and they always win, and we can't beat them. If we get that many votes, they can't out-cheat that. There's just a limit to what they can do as far as ginning up fraudulent votes. Would they just let him go then and just say, all right, we'll take our chances. He's term limited. You know, in 4 years, he'll leave. You know, they don't actually believe their own bullshit about, he's going to be a dictator. We're going to be killed. They don't believe that shit for a second. They just want to win by any means possible. They want the power. And they're perfectly willing to lie and kill Donald Trump. They don't care. They really don't. So that's where I'm like, they've already tried. Now, if you're saying, well, you can't say that. There's no proof. Here's my thinking on this. The Secret Service protection of Donald Trump has been embarrassing, has been ridiculous. And it's my assertion, nobody's that incompetent. This is intentional. This is intentional. They're leaving the door wide open for any crazy person, any foreign government. Apparently, Iran would like very much to kill Donald Trump. A Republican congressman put it out there, and who knows if he's telling the truth or he's making it up. There are 5 assassination squads running around right now in the United States. It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, there's 13,000 murderers running around thanks to Harris and Biden. Convicted murderers, apparently. Did you see that? That the immigration people had to admit to Congress that many criminals are running around in this country right now. Convicted murderers, 13,000. That means you know the number's double if that's what they're admitting to. The real number is way higher than that. And that's a huge number. I mean, think about it. It's like, how many murderers do you think are running loose right now in the United States? You know, I did some quick trying to figure this one out for myself, and I was sort of like, I don't know, running loose? I mean, there are a lot of murderers in jail, but running loose? I thought it might be 30, 40,000 maybe. And here you throw 13 on top of that. Yeah, that's a huge number. It's ridiculous. It's like, you know, I would see these ads about the victims of illegal immigrant crime. And I would say, well, you know, that's a little not fair. I mean, people get murdered by just red-blooded Americans every day. That happens. But then you see, like, they just don't care. It's like hey, you've been convicted of a murder in another country? Well, come on in. We don't really care. I'm sure you felt bad about it. I'm sure you're sorry. You won't do that again, will you? That's insane. That's insane. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these crimes. I saw that poor fella that out in Ohio where his son had died in the bus crash where, you know, a Haitian that couldn't drive smashed into the bus and ended up killing his son. And this guy's a Democrat, so he's, of course, now trying to cover up and, what's the word I'm looking for, justify what happened. And he said, man, I wish my kid had been killed by a 60-year-old white person. Well, I mean, if that would make you feel better, you know, if it were me, I would have said, hey, I wish my kid hadn't been killed at all. And then the other thing is that all the 60-year-old white people are slowing down for the school bus, or they're just off fishing or minding their own business. But, you know, you keep thinking that the 60-year-old white people are going to, you know, somehow cause you trouble. At any rate, I'm thinking, you know, we had a big outage today with Verizon. Do you think that's an accident? I don't. I mean, that's some kind of cyber attack. It didn't affect me, but apparently it did affect millions, tens, if not 100 million Americans. That's going to happen. There's going to be more of this. You know, buckle up. There's going to be some ugly stuff happening here in the next month. And it's all going to be geared towards making you not vote for Donald Trump. That whatever they can do, I don't know what else they can do to Trump short of killing him, because I don't know they can treat him any worse than what they have. I don't know that they... Well, you never know. I mean, the beauty of how badly they've treated Trump is that if they come out with an AI produced audio tape or something like that now, people just aren't going to believe it. They're just going to go, no, I don't believe that. I mean, you're telling me you're just coming out with that now, you know, a month before the election? Well, I guess you really did wish you had killed him in all those other attempts. So this is what you're reduced to? No. So that's where I'm kind of thinking, no matter what they do, I don't think it's going to work, short of murdering the guy. And God, I hope that does not happen, because then you are going to see, I think what you'll see is simply rules will no longer be followed. It'll be like the pandemic times 10. And when I say that, in the pandemic, people just, after a while, it became like, look, my government is not following any rules. They are simply breaking the contract that we had between governed, where I'm governed and the government. You know, I'm the citizen, and we're supposed to have a contract. There's certain rules here. You know, I do this, you do that. And certain behavior is not acceptable. It's not allowed. Well, they just tore the contract up and said, we can do whatever we want. We're the government. You don't have any rights. This is your new normal. So a lot of people just said, well, fuck that then. I don't think I need to stop at stop signs. And if I want to drive 100 miles an hour, go fuck yourself. That sort of stuff happened all the time. It'll be times 10 if Trump gets assassinated. You know, half of this country is just going to say, well, then I'm just not paying my taxes. And they can go to hell. I don't have anything anyway. You know, a lot of MAGA, we're all dead broke anyway. So, you know, it's like, come get me. You know, I'm just not going to pay. I heard on the Megyn Kelly's podcast today, Victor Davis Hanson was speaking. You know, he's from California. And it's amazing the way California, you know, and if the Democrats win, coming to a state near you very quickly, he threw it out there that a quarter of California energy consumers, people that get, I guess, specific gas and electric bills, just don't pay them. They just don't pay them. And I guess they just say, well, I guess we can't turn them off and just not service them. So they keep the juice turned on, and I guess they make it up by just raising the rates on the people that do pay. Well, you know, you're going to have half the country doing that. You know, we're just going to say, we're not doing it. We're not paying your bills. We're not paying your taxes. We're not going to do any of this stuff. We're going to become ungovernable. You know, I've heard that one thrown out a number of times, and I really hadn't given it a whole lot of thought, but that is what will happen ultimately if the deep state, the Harris-Biden administration, succeeds in killing Donald Trump. That you're going to be dealing with an ungovernable population, and the question will be, can you bring us under control by putting us all in jail, or are you going to just lose the battle because there's more of us than there ever view? You know, I know you guys think you got F-14s and stuff, so that's going to, you know, win you automatically the war. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe you'll be smart enough and not put it to that level by assassinating Donald Trump. Maybe you'll tune it down a little bit and just, they could have done that at any point in time and they just refuse. That's how disgusting these people are. At any point in time. And the funny thing is, had they done that, they would have won all sorts of points. They would have become more popular. They might have even had a chance to win the election. If at any point after one of these assassination attempts, if a prominent Democrat, let's just say Harris, and she's the leader of the party, had just come out and said, all right, this is enough. This is out of control. We all think Donald Trump's gone too far with his rhetoric, but we admit we've done the same. If they would do something like that, then it would do a lot to turn down the temperature, make us feel better that Donald Trump's not going to get murdered, but they just refuse because they're disgusting, evil people. So who want Donald Trump to be killed? That's the bottom line. All right, that's all we got for you. So Pete Rose dead, Donald Trump alive, very much alive in the race, and we'll just have to hold on to your hats here. It's about to get real bumpy. I'm Eric Arnold. I believe in free speech. We'll speak again.